for little girls without homes encounter a billionaire at their mother's resting place. The wealthy individual poses a question, and the response brings him to tears. Before we embark on this narrative journey, please share a comment below and let us know your location as you tune in. Delight in the tale. The crisp autumn breeze glided through Oakwood Cemetery, stirring the scattered leaves across the meticulously tended grounds. Matthew Porter wrapped his cashmere coat snugly around his tall figure while navigating the quiet aisles of headstones. The crisp sound of his polished Italian shoes echoed on the gravel path, punctuated only by the occasional distant call of a mourning dove. It had been a decade since he last grasped his daughter's hand. A decade spent in a void, merely surviving instead of truly embracing life. The marble headstone stood gracefully and immaculate against the backdrop of maple trees transforming into shades of crimson and gold. It read, Sarah Elizabeth Porter. Dearest daughter. Always 16. Matthew gently set a bouquet of white roses, her favorite, against the cool stone with great care. His fingers glided over the engraved letters of her name, a cherished ritual he observed each month without exception. Hello, my dear, he murmured, his voice thick with feeling. Father has arrived. At 52, Matthew Porter embodied the essence of a successful tech mogul, with silver threading through his dark hair at the temples and fine lines around his eyes, a testament to years of focus and determination. Recently, Forbes placed a valuation of $11 billion on his company. He owned residences in 5 different nations. And yet here, kneeling before his daughter's grave, he was just a father grappling with a void that nothing could ever satisfy. He perched on the modest bench he had chosen to install. Beside her grave, readying himself for his monthly one-sided conversation, he noticed movement through the thinning trees and caught sight of 4 small figures making their way toward a grave several plots away. 4 girls, each differing in height, their attire clearly showing signs of wear and mismatched in style. The eldest seemed to be about 12, grasping the hand of the tiniest, who looked no older than 6. The 2 girls in the center held delicate clusters of wildflowers, white daisies gathered from a nearby spot. Matthew observed, his intrigue momentarily overshadowing his sorrow. It was uncommon for children to venture into the cemetery, particularly by themselves. The eldest girl guided the others with a soft yet commanding presence, assisting the youngest in positioning her flowers, meticulously adjusting the arrangement with tenderness. Their hushed tones floated through the air, too far away to discern the phrases, yet their respect was unmistakable. They formed a small semicircle, their heads lowered for a brief moment, until the tiniest girl raised her gaze and locked eyes with Matthew. From afar, he could still catch a glimpse of her radiant smile as she waved with great enthusiasm. Surprised, Matthew nodded uncomfortably in recognition. He anticipated their departure, yet, following a short discussion, the 4 started approaching him instead. Greetings, sir, the eldest remarked, stepping forward with a blend of caution and unexpected confidence. Her auburn hair was gathered neatly in a practical ponytail, and her eyes held a seriousness that seemed unusual for someone of her age. We apologize for any disruption we may have caused. You didn't, Matthew responded, taken aback by the girl's calm demeanor. I found myself exploring. The little girl glanced around her older sister, her blue eyes sparkling with wonder. She held tightly to a worn stuffed rabbit, its one ear long gone. Whom are you planning to see? She inquired, her tone delicate yet distinct. Matthew cast a fleeting look at Sarah's headstone. The eldest daughter gently nudged her younger sister. That question isn't very courteous, Abby. However, the youngest, Abby, advanced with a spark of curiosity as she gazed at Sarah's name. Could that be Sarah? She inquired, gesturing towards the headstone. Matthew's breath hitched. Indeed, how did you manage that? Abby declared with enthusiasm, we're going to see Tia Sarah as well. Mommy mentioned that she watches over us like a guardian angel from heaven. The second oldest girl, observing Matthew's bewilderment, promptly clarified, she means we're going to see Mommy, but she always spoke of Sarah, the angel who looks after us. Matthew sensed a subtle shift in the world around him. "Did your mother know my Sarah?" The eldest girl nodded with a grave expression. "My name is Emma Miller. Here are my sisters, Lily, Sophie, and Abby." She indicated each one in succession. "Our mother was Jessica Miller. She worked as a nurse at Memorial Children's Hospital." The name struck Matthew with the force of a tangible impact. Jessica Miller. He certainly recalled her, the warm-hearted nurse with tender hands who had remained by Sarah's side during the darkest nights, who had miraculously drawn smiles from his daughter when no one else was able to. "Your mother." Matthew's voice wavered. "She provided support for Sarah throughout her treatments." Emma nodded, a fleeting darkness passing over her youthful features. "My mother left us 6 months ago, yet she always reminded us to keep Sarah in our hearts." She mentioned that they had exchanged a vow between themselves. Matthew gazed at the 4 girls, noting their tattered clothing, the frail figures of the older ones, and the smudges of dirt on their faces that hinted at neglect. A feeling stirred within him, something that had lain dormant for a decade. "What commitment?" he inquired gently. Sophie, the 3rd child, responded with a gravity that belied her youth. Mommy assured Sarah that she would always have company, and in return, Sarah vowed to keep an eye on all of us from the heavens above. She gestured towards the adjacent grave they had been frequenting, a modest marker in stark contrast to Sarah's ornate monument. Matthew rose gradually, compelled by the unassuming headstone. It read Jessica Marie Miller. "Dearest mother and nurturer, eternally cherished in our memories." As he gazed at the name, Abby gently intertwined her small hand with his. The sensation, the initial authentic human connection he had permitted himself to experience in years, surged through him like a shockwave. "Are you the father of Sarah?" she inquired, gazing up at him with a blend of naivety and wonder. Matthew nodded, words caught in his throat, a heavy silence enveloping him. "Then you're the one Mommy said would be all right someday," Abby declared with the unwavering confidence that only a child can have. "She advised Sarah to stop concerning herself with you." A solitary tear slipped free before Matthew could intervene, carving a line down his time-worn cheek. For a decade, he had wandered through this cemetery, bearing his sorrow like a shield. He had never envisioned discovering a link to Sarah in this place, a fragment of her existence he was unaware of, captured in the essence of these 4 little girls clutching wildflowers. "Would you be interested in placing one of our flowers on Sarah's grave?" Lily, the 2nd oldest, extended her hand, presenting a flawless white daisy. Matthew accepted it, his hands, worth billions, quivering as they enveloped the modest stem. Alongside the 4 sisters, he nestled the wildflower among the lavish roses. "Thank you," he succeeded. "I believe she would have truly appreciated that." With the autumn breeze stirring once more, weaving through the trees of the cemetery, Matthew Porter found himself alongside the Miller sisters, sensing for the first time in 10 years that a profound change had occurred in his life. He was unaware of the profound impact these 4 girls would have on his life. He never could have foreseen the adventure that lay ahead. Yet, as he stood there gazing at the white daisy placed gently against his daughter's name, Matthew experienced a flicker of something he believed he had lost for all time. That night, Matthew wandered through his desolate mansion, restless and wide awake. The meeting with the Miller sisters had unsettled him deeply. His mind danced with recollections of Sarah and snippets of dialogues with Jessica, the compassionate nurse who had offered solace in his bleakest moments. He strolled into his home office, a realm frozen in time. The familiar leather chair, the enduring mahogany desk, the walls adorned with accolades that had lost their significance to him. In a hidden drawer, secured for what felt like an eternity, lay a box filled with Sarah's cherished belongings. With quivering fingers, he unsealed it for the first time since her passing. Sarah's journal rested atop the stack, its purple cover frayed from constant handling. Matthew had always hesitated to open it until now. He delicately flipped through the pages, each stroke of his daughter's handwriting a poignant echo of everything that was gone. And then he beheld it. A note penned 3 months prior to her passing. Nurse Jessica shared the most amusing tale with me today about her daughters. The small one, Abby, attempted to assist by giving the cat a bubble bath. I was laughing so much that my mom thought something was amiss. It feels wonderful to find joy and laughter once more. Jessica brings a sense of comfort to the hospital environment. She assured me that she would take care of Dad if anything were to happen to me. I mentioned that he's quite headstrong and puts in a lot of hours, but she smiled and said, "Everyone needs someone to care, Sarah. Even those with immense wealth." Matthew's sight became clouded with tears. For all those years, he had confined himself, immersing in his tasks, turning away from every effort to connect with others. Throughout it all, Sarah had been concerned for him, striving to make sure someone would penetrate his defenses. The doorbell chimed, jarring him from his reverie. At 2 a.m., there was no doubt it could only be one individual. "You look awful," James Anderson remarked candidly as he entered the room. His oldest friend and attorney remained the sole individual who consistently reached out to him, even though Matthew tried hard to distance himself. "I require your assistance," Matthew stated, disregarding the remark. 4 girls visited the cemetery today. The sisters of Miller. Sarah's nurse was their mother. James arched an eyebrow. "So? There seems to be an issue." They gazed. "Overlooked. I must ensure their safety." James let out a heavy breath. "Matt, it's impossible to rescue everyone." "I'm not trying to save everyone," Matthew replied, his voice resolute. "Only these 4 girls. There's a bond, James, with Sarah. I seek clarity on this matter." James observed his friend with keen attention. For 10 years, he had observed Matthew withdraw from existence, shunning solace and dismissing bonds. For the first time in years, he displayed a spark of interest in something outside the realm of his businesses. "All right," James finally spoke up. "I will instruct my investigator to begin looking into the Miller family first thing tomorrow." As James departed, Matthew turned back to Sarah's journal, immersing himself in its pages until dawn. Jessica made her presence felt in each entry, offering thoughtful gifts, sharing anecdotes, and keeping Sarah company during Matthew's lengthy meetings. As the first light of dawn broke, Matthew found clarity in his thoughts and resolved to take action. He would seek out these girls once more. Not only to deepen his understanding of their bond with Sarah, but also because the innocence reflected in Abby's eyes and the weight of adult responsibility in Emma's gaze had stirred emotions he believed had faded away with his daughter. A reason that transcends simple survival. The next Saturday, Matthew made his way back to the cemetery, his heart pounding with excitement. Will the girls return once more? He lingered by Sarah's grave, feigning the task of arranging fresh flowers as his eyes roamed the pathways. After an hour, he finally caught sight of them, 4 diminutive silhouettes navigating their way among the headstones. This time, he observed nuances he had overlooked previously. Emma stood guard as she led her sisters, Lily moved with caution, Sophie's face reflected deep contemplation, while little Abby skipped along, bringing a touch of lightness to the serious atmosphere. "You returned," Emma remarked, her surprise evident as she laid eyes on him. Her auburn hair was gathered in a familiar practical ponytail, yet today a small clip was making an effort to hold her bangs at bay, preventing them from cascading into her eyes. "I did," Matthew replied, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. "I was thinking it might be nice to have a deeper conversation." The girls shared knowing looks, an unspoken connection that revealed the depth of their friendship. "We are the Miller sisters," Emma finally declared, stepping confidently into the role of introducing us. "My name is Emma, and I am 12 years old. This is Lily, she is 10 years old. Sophie is 8 years old, while Abby celebrated her 6th birthday just last month." "It's a pleasure to finally meet you," Matthew remarked. "My name is Matthew Porter, and I am the father of Sarah." "Does Porter appreciate Porter technology?" Sophie inquired, her eyes growing wide. "We were introduced to your company during our studies previously." Her voice faded, her gaze dropping to the ground. Before we had to cease our visits, Lily concluded softly. Matthew experienced a flicker of unease. So, you're not attending school? Emma's posture became rigid. The situation is intricate. After Mom passed away, we had to relocate. The new school requires documents from our stepdad, but he's occupied. The tone in which she uttered the word busy conveyed to Matthew all the information he required. Is your stepdad looking after you now? He inquired with caution. A shadow swept across Emma's face. He should be, but he spends little time at home. How about indulging in some hot chocolate? Matthew proposed, attuned to their unease. A cafe is located nearby. 20 minutes later, Matthew observed with a sense of unease as the girls indulged in hot chocolates and pastries, as if they hadn't had a proper meal in days. Even Emma, despite her fierce resolve to seem composed, couldn't conceal her yearning. Mom dedicated 15 years of her life to working at the hospital. Emma elaborated as she chewed. She found great joy in her profession, particularly in her interactions with the children. Sophie added that she always shared tales about Sarah. Her courage was remarkable, and she had a unique ability to bring laughter to those around her, even in her moments of illness. Abby, with chocolate smeared around her mouth, gazed up at Matthew. Mom remarked that Sarah was the most resilient individual she had ever encountered. That's why she embodies such goodness. Matthew sensed a constriction in his throat. Sarah received a great deal of kindness from your mother. And for me. Are you interested in visiting our home? Lily inquired abruptly. It's just a short distance away. In defiance of Emma's cautionary look, Matthew went ahead and accepted. A sense of urgency urged him to witness their living conditions firsthand. While they strolled, James reached out with initial discoveries. Matthew distanced himself to answer the call. James reported that the girl's mother passed away from pneumonia 6 months ago. She departed, leaving them in the care of their stepfather, Victor Miller. He has a history, primarily involving minor theft and a bit of fraud. There's an additional element to consider. Jessica received an inheritance from a family member just prior to her passing. Almost $500,000. It's nowhere to be found at this moment. The girls said they needed to relocate, Matthew whispered. That tracks, James responded. Their former residence was sold 3 months prior. As Matthew ended the call, he gazed at the 4 sisters before him, his perception transformed. These girls shared a bond that extended beyond Sarah. Assistance was required. In aiding them, he could potentially fulfill the vow Jessica had given to his daughter so many years prior. The apartment building towered ominously ahead of them. A dilapidated 5-story building, its windows boarded up and its walls adorned with graffiti. Matthew's luxury sedan seemed strikingly incongruous as he eased it into a spot along the curb. Emma took the lead, gripping a key that dangled from a worn string around her neck. She led them up to the 3rd floor, navigating the stairs that lacked handrails. The stairwell reeked of mildew and urine, prompting Matthew to inhale through his mouth. Their apartment, though compact, was meticulously tidy. A striking difference from the structure itself. Matthew observed the earnest attempts of children striving to uphold order. A solitary mattress rested in one corner, draped with meticulously arranged blankets. A modest table supported an array of schoolbooks alongside a handful of toys. Do you all rest here? He inquired, observing the absence of beds. We share, Emma stated plainly. It feels cozier that way. The kitchen featured a hot plate alongside a compact refrigerator. As Matthew opened the door, he discovered nothing more than a half-gallon of milk and a few slices of bread. Lily observed his expression and remarked that Victor occasionally brings food. As he recalls, Sophie pulled at Matthew's sleeve. Would you like to take a look at Mom's special box? It contains images of Sarah. The unique container was a worn shoebox concealed beneath a loose floorboard. Within the confines lay photographs, letters, and a petite leather-bound journal. Matthew's hands shook as he came across a photo of Sarah in her hospital bed, smiling through the tubes and monitors, with Jessica sitting beside her. Mom held on to every detail about Sarah, Emma explained. She emphasized the significance of cherishing those special individuals. A weathered envelope drew Matthew's gaze. Within lay a letter penned in Sarah's distinctive handwriting. Dear Jessica, I truly appreciate your friendship during my time of need. There's no need to be concerned about Dad once I'm no longer here. He possesses more strength than he realizes. However, should you ever notice him appearing adrift, please remind him that my wish is for him to find happiness once more. With all my heart, Sarah. Matthew's sight became clouded with tears. Inside another envelope were documents that appeared official, including financial statements, a will, and property deeds. These are your mother's financial papers, Matthew remarked, scrutinizing them closely. Have you heard that she received an inheritance from a family member? The girls appeared perplexed. Mom mentioned that Aunt Martha bequeathed us something, Emma responded. However, Victor remarked that it was merely sufficient to settle outstanding debts. Matthew's jaw clenched as he stumbled upon a document bearing two signatures, those of Jessica and Victor, that transferred property rights and financial assets. Even to his inexperienced gaze, Jessica's signature appeared to be a forgery. What is Victor's current location? He inquired, making an effort to maintain a nonchalant tone. Just working, Emma replied with a casual shrug. He won't return until late, perhaps even tomorrow, Matthew said, his focus on the documents as Abby settled into his lap. A weathered photo album cradled in her delicate hands. Here are some photos of Mommy and us, she said, turning to the first page. The disparity was deeply moving. Previous images depicted a warm family dynamic, featuring a joyful Jessica and neatly attired children. Newer observations highlighted Jessica's declining health and the girls' increasingly fatigued looks. As Abby flipped through the pages, Matthew observed Sophie's heavy breaths and the intermittent cough that escaped her lips. Lily appeared strikingly slender, and Emma's wrists jutted out sharply from her sleeves. In that moment, his decision took shape with clarity. He simply couldn't abandon these children in this place. His phone buzzed softly. A message from James. Background check finalized. Victor Miller. Engaged in fraudulent activities on 2 occasions. At present, I am under probation. Reach out to me as soon as you can. Just as Matthew was about to step away to make the call, the apartment door swung open with a loud bang. A figure lingered in the threshold, swaying slightly, as bloodshot eyes narrowed in suspicion at the unanticipated guest. Who on earth are you? Victor Miller insisted. Alcohol is abundant. His breath. Matthew rose deliberately, positioning himself protectively between the girls and their stepfather. My name is Matthew Porter. He responded with a sense of tranquility. It seems essential that we have a discussion regarding these children. Is it Matthew Porter? Victor's bloodshot eyes grew wide with understanding. The tycoon? What brings you to my space? Matthew kept a composed facade, even as frustration bubbled just below the surface. I am a close acquaintance of the family. I was simply inquiring about the girls. Victor's eyes flicked back and forth between Matthew and the children, a thoughtful expression taking over his earlier astonishment. Emma had drawn her sisters in close behind her. Abby grasping her leg tightly. Apprehension, unmistakable in every expression. Well, isn't that lovely? Victor slurred, trying to muster a charming smile that fell flat, failing to illuminate his eyes. These girls fall under my care, after all. My stepdaughters. I have the documents and all that. Indeed, I came across some fascinating articles today. Matthew responded, his tone unexpectedly gentle. Incorporating financial documents bearing Jessica's signature that appear to be suspiciously forged. Victor's expression grew steely. It's time for you to go, immediately. With enthusiasm, Matthew replied. The girls will be accompanying me. Absolutely not. Victor surged ahead, yet the effects of alcohol rendered him awkward. Matthew deftly maneuvered, positioning himself more resolutely between the man and the children. It seems you've had a bit too much to drink, Victor. The care these children have received over the past months has been inadequate. They exist in a state of neglect, potentially unwell and enduring horrific living circumstances. You have no right. Victor spat, his amiable mask dissolving. They provide my livelihood. As soon as the words escaped his lips, Victor appeared to grasp the error he had made. Matthew's face became a mask of indifference. What did you just express? Victor retreated, in both a physical sense and a metaphorical one. Silence. I meant I am accountable for them. Their welfare checks are directed to me. What about Jessica's inheritance? Matthew insisted. Was the house sold? That sum of $500,000. Victor's hand drifted toward his pocket. Matthew felt a surge of tension, yet rather than brandishing a weapon, Victor revealed his phone. I'm contacting the authorities. You are on private property. Matthew concurred, recognizing the brilliance of the idea. I have no doubt that they will find these financial documents and the well-being of these children quite compelling. Victor's finger lingered just above his phone. As Matthew stood there, Abby's cough erupted behind him, a deep, rattling noise that reverberated through her small body. All eyes shifted as the coughing grew louder, the young girl's face becoming increasingly flushed. She requires medical attention, Matthew stated, swiftly approaching the child. He gently rested his hand on her forehead. She's on fire. Emma appeared utterly frightened. She has been coughing throughout the week. I administered the medicine that Mom had left for her, but it has now been depleted. In a flash of instinct, Matthew lifted Abby into his embrace. I'm bringing her to the hospital. Everyone else, follow me. You can't simply, Victor started, but Matthew interrupted him. Contact the authorities, Victor. I would be glad to clarify my reasons for seeking medical attention for a critically ill child. He locked eyes with Victor in a way that had caused competitors to falter. Or you can take a step back for now, and we can talk about this when you're clear-headed. Victor hesitated, the instinct for self-preservation overcoming his desire for more. He retreated, whispering menacing words. With careful steps, Matthew descended the stairs, holding Abby in his arms, while her sisters trailed behind, their eyes fixed on the pair. The young girl's breathing was heavy, her tiny frame emanating warmth. Hop in, he said, as he unlocked the car door. Emma paused for just a moment before assisting her sisters into the back seat. Where are we going? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. First, we head to the hospital for Abby, Matthew said, as he turned the key in the ignition. Then in a secure location. As they drove off, he glimpsed Emma's gaze reflected in the rearview mirror. I assure you, this will come to a close today. Everything. The fear in her eyes was softened by an unfamiliar emotion that Matthew had never witnessed before. A subtle spark of possibility. Matthew's penthouse spanned the uppermost 3 levels of a modern glass tower nestled in the bustling center of the city. Expansive windows stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing stunning panoramic vistas, while the understated furniture in soft grays and blacks fostered an ambience of refined simplicity. The space was crafted for a lone individual, stripped of warmth, color, or any trace of youth. Up to this point. Your home floats among the clouds, Sophie murmured, her nose touching the glass, her breath creating a mist on the pristine pane. Just a day after breaking free from Victor's apartment, the 3 older Miller sisters were delving into their makeshift refuge, while Abby stayed behind in the hospital battling pneumonia. It's not really a house, Matthew replied, observing the girls' reactions with a peculiar blend of unease and satisfaction. It's less of an apartment and more of a penthouse. Lily noted, her fingers gliding over the cool marble kitchen counter, that it was larger than their entire building. Emma, always watchful, stayed near Matthew, as though anticipating a shift in his decision at any instant. What is the duration of our stay? She inquired straightforwardly. The inquiry lingered, suspended in the atmosphere. Matthew had only considered the immediate goal of ensuring their safety. The night before had unfolded in a haze of hospital paperwork, anxious expressions from doctors, and frantic phone calls to James regarding temporary guardianship. "Whenever you require," he ultimately replied. "Until we resolve everything." Emma's doubtful gaze conveyed a wealth of experience regarding the countless adult promises she had witnessed fall apart. The elevator's chime drew their attention, causing them to pivot in unison. James emerged, burdened with an array of shopping bags. He declared, placing down clothes, toiletries, and a few essential items. "My assistant made assumptions about the sizes." Matthew presented the girls to his attorney, clarifying that James was assisting them with their predicament. The lawyer's typically serious demeanor relaxed as he welcomed each sister. As the girls delved into their new outfits, James took a moment to draw Matthew away for a private conversation. "There's an issue," he whispered. "Victor asserts that the girls have been abducted. A police report has been filed by him." Matthew's jaw clenched. "That's utterly ridiculous. He was inebriated, careless." "I'm aware," James cut in. "However, in a legal sense, he holds the position of their guardian. The hospital is submitting a report to Child Protective Services regarding Abby's condition, which strengthens our case, but we must act swiftly." "What is required?" "Proof of the monetary deception. Evidence of disregard. And someone enduring to request." James paused at the thought of guardianship. "Matt, what's the reason behind your actions? For a decade, you've steered clear of emotional ties, and now you find yourself in a battle for custody of 4 children you've only just come to know." Matthew cast a glance at the girls. Lily held up a sparkly shirt from the shopping bags, her face glowing with delight. That appeared incongruous considering their situation. He spoke softly, mentioning that Sarah had asked Jessica to take care of me. Instead, Jessica passed away, leaving behind 4 daughters who seemed to have no one to safeguard them. Bringing a circle to its conclusion in some way. James observed the features of his friend's face. "This won't be a walk in the park. Not even for someone with your capabilities. Nothing of value ever truly is." Later that evening, following a dinner during which the girls expressed their admiration for the array of dishes brought in from Matthew's beloved restaurant, he received a call from the hospital. Abby was stable, yet she would require several more days of observation. "Are we able to go see her tomorrow?" Emma inquired, lingering close by as the call unfolded. "Certainly," Matthew assured. "At the break of dawn." As the hour for rest drew near, an unexpected obstacle presented itself. The penthouse boasted 4 bedrooms, yet the girls insisted on staying together. Lily explained, her voice tinged with anxiety, "We always sleep together." Matthew swiftly transformed one of the guest rooms, shoving furniture aside to create a makeshift bed, ample enough for 3. He observed Emma as she tucked in her sisters with a certain lack of finesse, softly murmuring reassurances about Abby. As he stood in the doorway, watching the small family inside his pristine home, Matthew came to the unsettling realization that he was utterly lost in his own life. For the first time in 10 years, he found himself engaged in something of significance. It's essential to grasp the spoon in this manner. Matthew skillfully guided Lily's hand as she endeavored to measure the baking powder. 3 days into their new living situation, they found themselves trying to make pancakes, marking the girls' first home-cooked breakfast since their mother passed away. The kitchen, once merely a space for coffee and takeout, had evolved into a flower-dusted battlefield. Sophie perched on the counter, legs crossed, engrossed in the instructions of an online recipe, while Emma meticulously flipped a lopsided pancake, her expression focused and serious. "Should it appear that way?" Sophie inquired with uncertainty, gesturing toward the uneven batter. "I have absolutely no idea," Matthew admitted, prompting surprised giggles from the girls. "Preparing meals was not part of my executive education." The pancakes emerged from the skillet somewhat misshapen, yet they were deemed satisfactory, a triumph they reveled in as if it were a grand accomplishment. These fleeting instances of everyday life had transformed into treasures, connecting the stark contrasts between Matthew's existence and that of the girls. Following breakfast, they made their way to the hospital to see Abby, carrying with them a hand-drawn card and a stuffed rabbit that Matthew had spontaneously picked up at the gift shop. The little girl's condition was getting better, her fever had finally subsided, but the doctors preferred to keep an eye on her for another day. "When will we be able to bring her home?" Lily inquired, her petite hand fitting seamlessly into Matthew's as they exited the hospital. The unexpected gesture surprised him, this unwarranted trust from a child who had every reason to be cautious around adults. He assured that tomorrow, if everything unfolds as planned, he would deliver. Returning to the penthouse, as the girls got comfortable for a film Matthew had never encountered, something involving princesses and their enchanting abilities, he slipped away to his office for a video call with James. James reported that the investigation is moving forward. It has been established that Victor falsified Jessica's signature on a minimum of 8 documents, and he depleted her entire inheritance within 3 months following her passing. Is there a way to salvage any of it? Several. He invested significantly, but we've identified multiple substantial acquisitions, including a boat, a car, and settled gambling debts. We can pursue those assets. What about custody? James paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. That presents a greater level of complexity. The temporary emergency guardianship will remain in effect for the time being due to Abby's medical situation, but the matter of permanent custody is still pending. He hesitated, selecting his words with precision. Matthew, the courts generally prioritize blood relatives or individuals who have established ties to the children. Matthew asserted, Sarah is my connection. And Jessica, these girls are all alone. There could be family members we have yet to discover. Your way of living isn't particularly suitable for children. Your days stretch to 16 hours, filled with relentless travel. I can fix that, Matthew interjected. I will make that adjustment. A faint sound caught his attention, prompting him to turn around. Emma lingered in the doorway, her face a mask of mystery. What had she overheard? We need more popcorn, she stated, her tone deliberately even. Once James had signed off, Matthew discovered Emma in the kitchen, carefully organizing popcorn into 4 bowls. You don't need to overhaul your entire existence for us, she stated bluntly. This is a fleeting moment. Matthew rested against the counter. What if I desire it to be permanent? Emma glanced upward, her youthful features reflecting the caution of one who had discovered too soon that hope could be perilous. Initially, everyone is eager to lend a hand, but as challenges arise, that enthusiasm often wanes. I'm not like everyone else, Matthew responded, locking eyes with her intently. I persevere even when challenges arise. Emma gazed at him intently, as though probing for the truth hidden within his statements. At last, she presented him with 2 of the popcorn bowls. Sophie expressed her preference for extra butter with a straightforward remark. Yet, the subtle smile that graced her lips seemed to represent a triumph far greater than any corporate agreement Matthew had ever secured. That evening, as he quietly entered the girls' shared room, he discovered all 3 of them peacefully asleep. Sophie's head rested gently on Emma's shoulder, while Lily had curled herself protectively around her sister's beloved stuffed cat. The vision awakened a deep sensation within Matthew, a mix of ache and essential clarity, akin to a limb coming back to life after a prolonged state of numbness. Abby returned home from the hospital on a Thursday morning, her frail body still recovering, yet her spirit remained bright and unyielding. As she entered the penthouse, the atmosphere shifted dramatically, her joyful exclamations at the sight of her sisters reverberating against the sleek, minimalist walls that had never before held such pure happiness. Your house is enormous, she exclaimed, her eyes wide as she navigated the space on unsteady legs. Are you residing here by yourself? Indeed, Matthew replied with sincerity. Up to this point. As the evening wore on and the thrill of the day faded, Abby nestled comfortably in bed alongside her sisters, Matthew found solace on the balcony, a glass of scotch in hand. The city light sprawled beneath him like a tapestry of stars, a sight that had once symbolized all he had accomplished. Now it felt oddly empty in contrast to the 4 slumbering children within. The balcony door creaked open. Emma emerged, cocooned in a blanket to fend off the crisp autumn air. "Having trouble finding rest?" Matthew inquired. She shook her head, easing into the chair next to him. "Excessively silent. I'm accustomed to the sounds of the city, but not to them overshadowing everything else." They lingered in a comfortable quiet for several moments until Emma broke the stillness once more. "May I inquire about Sarah?" Matthew's body tightened instinctively, but he made a conscious effort to ease his muscles. "Absolutely. How was she as a person?" "Mom shared tales with us, yet." "She was remarkable," Matthew started, taken aback by the effortless flow of words after so many years of sidestepping the topic. "Remarkable, resolute, empathetic, even in her moments of illness. She was more concerned with the emotions of others than with her own. Mom mentioned that she never voiced a complaint, not even a single time." Indeed, a subtle smile graced Matthew's lips. "She often remarked that it was pointless to expend energy on complaints when it could be better spent on truly living." Emma drew her knees close, curling into herself. "What is the situation with her mother?" "Your spouse." "Caroline," Matthew uttered, the name worn and faded from neglect. "She passed away when Sarah was just 7 years old. Collision on the road." Emma noted in silence that Sarah also experienced life without a mother. The parallel hit Matthew with an unforeseen intensity. Indeed, that was the case. "I wasn't as present as I ought to have been. Following Caroline's passing, I immersed myself in my work." "That's what grown-ups do," Emma remarked, her voice carrying the heavy insight of a young soul who had witnessed far too much. "They evade the difficult emotions." Matthew examined her profile, youthful yet remarkably insightful. "Your mother. Had she been unwell for an extended period?" Emma's fingers gripped the blanket with intensity. "She began to cough last winter, claiming it was merely a cold, but it escalated. We were unable to pay for medical care once she had to leave her job. By the time she arrived at the hospital." Her voice wavered just a bit. Apologies slipped from Matthew's lips, the weight of unspoken sentiments lingering in the cool night air. "Victor arrived 2 days post-funeral," Emma continued, her voice growing steely. "He claimed to be our legal guardian now, despite having met him only twice before. My mom tied the knot with him when I was just 9, but he walked away after only a few months. She didn't even bother to change our last names." "Were there any messages, videos, or letters left by your mother?" Emma gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "Only the container of recollections. She extracted a promise from me to ensure that everyone stayed united, regardless of the circumstances." Her voice diminished. "I made an effort, yet I was unable to shield them from it all." The burden of responsibility on those youthful shoulders hit Matthew with the force of a tangible impact. Here was a young soul who had been compelled to take on the role of a caregiver, much like he had been thrust into the life of a solitary father. Unready yet resolute, each burdened by the weight of vows whispered to those on the brink of departure. Without hesitation, Matthew extended his hand, softly covering Emma's. "They were indeed safeguarded by your actions. You held them united. Preserved their existence. That surpasses what many adults could have accomplished." Emma remained close. In the dim reflection of the glass balcony door, Matthew noticed a tear tracing its way down her cheek. She whispered, longing for her presence, missing her deeply. "I understand," Matthew responded gently. "Every day, I find myself thinking of Sarah and feeling that absence deeply." In the stillness of the night, they found solace in each other's presence, bound by shared grief, as 3 little girls nestled in the penthouse drifted into a rare, serene slumber after what felt like an eternity. It had been a fortnight since the Miller sisters took up residence in Matthew's penthouse. What started as a temporary fix has transformed into something akin to a sanctuary. The refrigerator was now a canvas of vibrant artwork, throw pillows seemed to have a mind of their own, and the joyful sounds of children's laughter filled the previously quiet spaces. Today, Matthew found himself in his home office, enveloped by a sea of legal documents. Opposite him, James meticulously examined their approach for the impending custody hearing. The positive development, James remarked, as he adjusted his glasses, is that the investigation by CPS clearly indicates the girl's experienced neglect while in Victor's care. Abby's medical records speak volumes. What about the unfortunate news? Matthew inquired, preparing himself for what was to come. Victor is pushing back, asserting that you have effectively taken the children and are leveraging your wealth and power to take them away. He portrays himself as a sorrowful stepfather consumed by despair. Matthew's jaw clenched. That's utterly ridiculous. However, James cautioned that it could be potentially effective. Judges often approach with caution when a prosperous bachelor unexpectedly seeks custody of 4 young girls. A gentle rap broke the silence. Emma lingered in the doorway, cradling a tray of freshly baked cookies in her hands. Sophie and Lily created these, she elaborated. They expressed their gratitude for the art supplies. The cookies emerged from the oven with an irregular form and a hint of char. Yet Matthew embraced them with heartfelt gratitude. Once Emma departed, he redirected his attention to James. What is required for us to achieve victory in this endeavor? James laid out a collection of documents on the desk. Initially, tangible proof of Victor's deceit. Next, accounts regarding the girl's welfare prior to and following Jessica's passing. And third, he paused. It is essential to show that you can offer not only financial security but also emotional backing. Your dedication to nurturing these children for the long haul is evident. I am dedicated, Matthew declared with conviction. Are you? James posed a gentle challenge. 3 weeks ago, you were solitary, toiling through 80-hour weeks, and Sarah's name hadn't crossed your lips in years. Now you aspire to step into the role of a father to 4 children who have experienced trauma. Matthew paused, reflecting on his friend's words. His eyes wandered to a photo of Sarah that now rested on his desk, positioned there by Lily, who had discovered it while rummaging through the penthouse. After a decade of constructing a vast empire, he finally admitted it all amounts to nothing. These girls, they're the first thing that has brought a sense of comfort since Sarah passed away. James nodded, a gentle warmth spreading across his face. We must ensure the courts recognize that. We require something solid regarding Victor. Matthew proposed, what about the safety deposit box belonging to Jessica? Emma brought it up yesterday. Victor searched endlessly, but the key remained elusive. James appeared captivated. That might hold precisely what we're looking for. Later that afternoon, Matthew assembled the girls in the living room. He had to address the custody matter, to ready them for the impending legal struggle. Yet, how does one convey intricate legal matters to young minds that have faced so many challenges? He started with a measured tone, expressing a desire to discuss what lies ahead. Regarding your decision to remain here with me for the long term. Abby, brimming with vitality and fully recovered, glanced up from her coloring book. For all eternity. Matthew nodded in agreement, affirming the plan. However, Victor is attempting to persuade you to return to him. Emma's demeanor shifted to one of shadow and intensity. Are we really not returning? No, you are not, Matthew reassured her. However, we must persuade a judge of that fact. Things could become intricate. Sophie, ever the considerate soul, inquired. Will we encounter him once more? Perhaps, but not by oneself. Always by your side, Matthew vowed. Lily remained silent during the discussion, nervously toying with the edge of her shirt. At last, her voice emerged. Would we resemble your daughters? The inquiry took Matthew by surprise. In his concentration on the legal details, he overlooked the need to define this new relationship. Indeed, he remarked, astonished by the conviction that resonated in his tone. If that's your desire, what shall we do about our surname? Emma inquired. Mom would want us to hold on to Miller. Matthew suggested that you could go with Miller Porters, or simply stick with Miller. Choose what resonates with you. Abby settled into his lap, a gesture that had grown more frequent. I believe Mother would feel pleased that you're looking after us. She often mentioned that Sarah was keeping an eye on us, and now you are as well. Matthew felt a constriction in his throat as he gazed at these four extraordinary children, who had inexplicably breached the barriers he'd erected around his heart. The road ahead in the legal realm promises to be fraught with difficulties. For the first time in 10 years, Matthew Porter was striving for something far more precious than mere business success or monetary rewards. He was battling for a family. Heavy clouds loomed over the city skyline, swollen with rain and foreboding energy. All day, phones buzzed with weather alerts, cautioning about an impending storm system that could be the most severe the region has faced in decades. Matthew gazed out from the penthouse windows, observing the sky shift to an eerie green-gray as the barometric pressure dropped dramatically. Ladies, let's wrap up collecting the emergency supplies, he said, glancing back from the scenery. In the kitchen, Emma and Sophie busily filled containers with water, while Lily assisted Abby in organizing battery-operated lanterns and flashlights on the dining table. Will there be a significant storm? Abby inquired, her petite hands meticulously organizing the flashlights, sorted by size. The weather service indicates that it could be, Matthew replied candidly. In recent weeks, he discovered that the girls reacted more positively to honesty, even when it was hard to hear, rather than to empty comforts. Emma lifted her gaze from her work. What happens if the power goes out? Matthew explained that we have a generator for essential systems, but we should still be prepared. It's wiser to be cautious than to regret later. The last 3 days had been a flurry of events. Upon uncovering the existence of Jessica's safety deposit box, James obtained a court order to gain access to it. Tomorrow, they would unveil it together, possibly revealing crucial evidence that could strengthen their case against Victor. The custody hearing loomed just a week away, yet tonight, every thought was consumed by the impending storm. I don't like thunder, Lily confessed softly while assisting Matthew in taping the windows, an extra measure at their height, yet it provided a sense of security for the girls. We'll all stick together in the media room, Matthew promised her. It's the most secluded area, distant from the windows. As dusk settled in, the tempest unleashed its fury. Rain pounded against the glass in relentless sheets, while the wind shrieked around the corners of the building. The girls had turned the media room into a snug sanctuary, pulling in pillows, blankets, and stuffed animals to craft a nest-like atmosphere on the floor. As they settled into the rhythm of their second film, the lights suddenly flickered before plunging them into darkness. Moments later, the backup generator sprang to life, but it only delivered enough power for emergency lighting in critical systems. Is everyone all right? Matthew inquired, illuminating one of the lanterns they had ready. Four tiny voices responded with a yes. Even as he sensed the strain in their responses, the thunder outside roared with such intensity that the very structure appeared to shudder. Abby nestled into Matthew's lap, holding her stuffed rabbit tightly. Share a tale with us, she urged, her voice soft yet resolute. With a smile, Matthew paused briefly before launching into a vivid account of Sarah's 6th birthday party, a whimsical princess-themed affair complete with a castle cake and a genuine pony. The girls were fully engaged, inquiring about specifics and chuckling at Sarah's response to the pony-eating section of her dress. As Matthew spoke, unveiling memories he'd held close for ages, he recognized that something had profoundly shifted within him. The ache lingered, yet it no longer overshadowed the recollections. He could now speak of Sarah with joy, rather than just sorrow. A fierce gust of wind battered the building, resulting in a far-off crashing noise. Abby let out a soft whimper, nestling further into Matthew's embrace. The structure is crafted to endure far more intense storms than this, he comforted her, gently caressing her hair. We are completely secure in this place. As soon as he spoke, the emergency lights flickered and went out. The backup generator was inoperative. As the shadows enveloped them, Matthew sensed the girls draw nearer, searching for comfort. He swiftly ignited multiple lanterns, casting inviting pools of warm light amidst the surrounding darkness. He explained that the storm likely caused damage to the generator, making an effort to maintain a steady tone. "It's perfectly fine, we have an abundance of lanterns and—" He paused as Sophie started to cough, a harsh wheezing noise that brought back unsettling memories of Abby's recent illness. The cough persisted, becoming increasingly strained. "Sophie, what seems to be the issue?" Emma inquired, her tone edged with worry. "Struggling to catch your breath, huh?" Sophie inhaled sharply, struggling to catch her breath amidst the fits of coughing. Matthew hurried to her side, his heart pounding. "Sophie, do you happen to have asthma?" The young girl nodded, her breath still coming in shallow gasps. "Inhaler, tucked away in my bag." Emma was in motion, hastily making her way to the doorway. "I will take care of it." Matthew supported Sophie, guiding her to breathe slowly and steadily, encouraging her to find her rhythm. Lily and Abby observed with wide, fearful eyes. Emma came back just a moment later, her face a canvas of panic. "It isn't present. It seems to be elusive, as I can't locate it at all." "When did you last use it?" Matthew asked Sophie, striving to keep his composure as his thoughts whirled through various possibilities. "Yesterday," she struggled to breathe. "Perhaps. Restroom." The circumstances were intensifying rapidly. Sophie's lips were acquiring a bluish hue, and her breathing grew increasingly strained with each passing moment. It was crucial to locate that inhaler, or rush her to emergency services without delay. "Emma, please take a look at the bathrooms," Matthew said. "Lily, please check the kitchen. I will take a look at the bedrooms." As Abby followed him with a sense of unease, Matthew scoured the girl's bedroom before turning his attention to his own. Absent inhaler. The tempest beyond the glass had escalated, droplets pummeling the panes with a fierce determination. The idea of transporting Sophie to a hospital under these circumstances was daunting, yet it was becoming more and more urgent. The team reconvened in the media room, each sharing the identical outcome. No inhaler located. Sophie leaned against the wall, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. "We must take her to a hospital," Matthew resolved, already envisioning the quickest path through the raging storm. At that moment, the landline phone, a relic of the penthouse that Matthew had almost forgotten in the age of cell phones, started to ring. He responded promptly, wishing it could be the building management with updates regarding the generator. Instead, a voice that sent shivers down my spine echoed through the line. "I'm aware you have my girls," Victor slurred, the connection buzzing with static from the storm, "and I know you're heading to that safety deposit box tomorrow. You may think you have it all figured out, but I have connections at the bank. I possess all knowledge." Matthew felt a chill seep through him. "Victor, this isn't the moment. Sophie is experiencing a critical asthma attack and requires immediate medical assistance." A moment of silence was followed by a sharp, mocking laugh. "Young Sophie. Always had a frail constitution. Her inhaler is likely in my apartment. Last week, I came across it and completely overlooked returning it. My apologies." The statement's casual cruelty struck Matthew with the force of a physical blow. "You intentionally took her medication." "Take it as a reminder," Victor growled. "Those are my children, Porter. The dish I prepared. Pass. And I am determined to claim what rightfully belongs to me." The call abruptly ended, leaving Matthew gazing at the receiver in disbelief and anger. As he glanced back at the girls, he realized that Emma had caught every single word. Her youthful visage was a portrait of fear. "He's on his way here," she murmured. Before Matthew could reply, an unfamiliar noise pierced through the tumult of the storm. The sound of the elevator alarm pierced the silence, signaling that someone had activated the emergency override. Victor had gone beyond mere words of warning. He had already entered the building. Secure the portals. Matthew took charge, immediately transitioning into a state of urgency. Emma, could you assist me in relocating Sophie to the master bathroom? It features a locking mechanism. Lily, please fetch some water and damp towels. They toiled swiftly in the faint glow of the lantern while thunder rumbled ominously above. Matthew's thoughts whirled with possibilities. The power outage led to a breach in the building's security. The cell service was out, and the landline had fallen silent following Victor's call. He possesses a key to the service elevator. Emma murmured softly as they arranged Sophie in the bathroom. From his time spent maintaining a building like this, Matthew secured the bathroom door, ensuring that Abby and Lily were safely inside with their sister. Emma stood her ground. I require assistance. She was adamant. Her youthful visage radiated a resolve that belied her age. They were not kept waiting for long. A resounding knock echoed through the house, signaling Victor's presence at the front door. Matthew guided Emma to stand behind him, moving forward with careful steps. Peering through the peephole, he caught sight of Victor, drenched, eyes wide with intensity, teetering on the edge of balance. In his right hand shimmered a metallic object. A blade. Text, I know you're in there, Porter, Victor shouted, pounding his fist against the door once more. Hand over those girls, or I promise you'll regret it. Matthew's thoughts raced with intensity. Sophie required urgent medical assistance. The penthouse featured a private stairwell meant for emergencies, yet descending 40 flights with a gravely ill child felt utterly unfeasible. He had to eliminate the danger. Stay here, he murmured to Emma, as he stepped toward his office. Within the confines of his desk drawer lay a small safe, holding the singular item that Caroline had firmly requested following Sarah's arrival into the world. A firearm. Matthew had only ever handled it within the confines of a training range, yet its weight offered a somber sense of reassurance as Victor hurled himself against the door. Emma, Matthew said, turning back to the terrified girl, I need you to summon all your courage for a moment. As soon as I swing this door open, dash to the house phone in my bedroom. A direct connection to building security is located on the basement level. Emma nodded, her complexion one yet determined. The door cracked ominously at the hinges as Victor charged into it once more. Matthew took his stance, the weapon hidden behind his leg, and shouted out. Victor, please cease. I am now opening the door. It's time for a conversation. He released the lock and took a step back. As Victor stormed in, knife in hand, Matthew reacted with surprising agility, disarming him and bringing him down to the floor using skills honed from self-defense lessons long past. Security. Emma exclaimed into the phone. Luxury apartment at the top. Urgent situation, individual armed. Victor writhed under Matthew's hold, unleashing a torrent of threats and curses. Do you really believe you've triumphed? I have coverage, recordings of Jessica confessing to taking from patients, her standing diminishes, and those troublemakers lose it all. Matthew applied more pressure to Victor's arm. You are not being truthful. Victor's laugh was unappealing. The safety deposit box contains her confession. Tomorrow, everything will be revealed unless you settle with me. What admission? Matthew insisted. Yet Victor had succumbed, the blend of alcohol and fatigue ultimately proving too much for him. In just a matter of moments, security made their entrance. The tempest had subsided sufficiently for them to reach the emergency stairs. As paramedics cared for Sophie and police apprehended Victor, Matthew embraced the terrified girls tightly. It's finished, he assured, and by tomorrow we will uncover the truth. The safety deposit box held no admission of guilt. The following morning, Matthew and James discovered meticulously arranged documents that revealed an entirely different narrative. Video evidence of Victor confessing to forging Jessica's signature, bank statements revealing questionable transfers, and perhaps the most incriminating piece, a recorded conversation in which Victor bragged about orchestrating the ideal scheme involving Jessica's inheritance. "This is all we require," James remarked, examining the evidence. "Victor attempted to deceive you last night. These recordings will ensure he faces a lengthy prison sentence." However, it wasn't solely legal evidence that Jessica had safeguarded. Inside the box were 4 sealed envelopes, each one addressed to a daughter, filled with letters and cherished mementos. Amidst the treasures of her children's legacy, there lay a 5th envelope, unassumingly addressed to Sarah's father. Matthew's hands quivered with anticipation as he unsealed it. "Mr. Porter," Jessica penned. "If you find yourself perusing these words, I have departed. And somehow my daughters have discovered their path to you. Sarah extracted a promise from me to watch over you, yet it appears that destiny had different intentions. I trust that you will take care of my daughters. Sarah transformed my existence through her bravery and compassion. She frequently mentioned you, concerned that you might lose your way once she was no longer there. In discovering my children, you may have rediscovered a part of yourself. Kindly convey to my daughters that my love for them knows no bounds. And rest assured, Sarah holds you in high regard no matter where she may be. With gratitude, Jessica Miller." 3 months slipped by. Victor lingered in jail, awaiting trial, the evidence stacked against him insurmountable. The court had granted Matthew temporary guardianship of the Miller sisters as the adoption process progressed. Their lives had settled into a routine none of them could have envisioned before. Today held significance. It was Lily's 11th birthday. The penthouse, once a testament to simplicity, had undergone a vibrant transformation. Colorful streamers cascaded from the ceilings, balloons gathered in cozy corners, and a handmade Happy Birthday Lily banner, crafted by Sophie, took center stage on the living room wall. "Are you sure this isn't too much?" Matthew inquired of Emma as they added the finishing touches to the decorations. The board meeting had been rearranged to make way for the party, a notion that would have been utterly unimaginable to the old Matthew. Emma smiled, a sincere and unreserved expression that had become increasingly common over the months. "Lily truly deserves this celebration. It's been far too long since we've had a proper birthday since Mom passed away." In the kitchen, Sophie and Abby took their roles as supervisors seriously, albeit with a touch of humor, as they inspected the cake, chocolate with strawberry filling, Lily's favorite, and counted the napkins with meticulous care. Lily was out with her new piano teacher, a clever diversion ahead of her surprise party. The guests would be arriving in 30 minutes, Matthew's assistant noted, glancing at her tablet. The guest list featured Lily's new classmates, teachers, and the therapist who had been guiding all 4 girls through their healing journey. "Thank you, Angela. The gift arrived this morning and is now in your office." Upon Lily's return, the chorus of astonished exclamations filled her with emotion. The penthouse, which had been quiet and lifeless for hours, now resonated with laughter, music, and the joyful disorder of children reveling in celebration. Following the cake, Matthew guided Lily to his office. "A surprise awaits you." In the corner, a baby grand piano stood, its ebony surface shining. "It's for me," Lily whispered, drawing closer with awe. "Your mother wrote in her letter about your deep love for music." Sarah also played. Matthew knelt beside her. "I imagined you would appreciate genuine lessons." Lily's fingers danced lightly across the keys. "It's truly beautiful." There was one final detail. Matthew presented her with a jewelry box. Within it lay a delicate silver necklace adorned with 2 charms, a musical note and a tiny heart. The heart bore an inscription, he elaborated as she scrutinized it. Lily narrowed her eyes at the minuscule letters. "Family found, not lost." She gazed up at him, her eyes shining with a wisdom that belied her age. "Because we discovered one another." Indeed, Matthew concurred, his own sight becoming hazy. "I've submitted the adoption papers. If this is still what you all desire." He didn't complete his thought. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, gripping the necklace firmly in her hand. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered against his shoulder, marking the first time any of the girls had addressed him that way. Later, as the party began to fade and weary children scattered, Matthew discovered Emma on the balcony, gazing at the sunset. "Lily called me Dad," he said, still reflecting on the moment. Emma nodded, her expression revealing no shock. "This is your reality now. This is who you have turned into." Observing this extraordinary 12-year-old who had navigated her family through insurmountable challenges, Matthew experienced a wave of pride and duty. These 4 girls, along with him, were mending one another, filling the voids that grief had etched into their lives. 6 months flowed by like the changing of seasons, slow yet profoundly transformative. The penthouse, once a bastion of solitude, now brimmed with the vibrant traces of childhood. Homework sprawled across dining tables, instruments found their place in corners, and artwork clung to refrigerator doors like cherished memories. Matthew's evolution was perhaps the most striking. The once unyielding CEO, who meticulously arranged meetings in 15-minute slots, now departed the office right at 5, dedicating time to guide Sophie through her science fair project and cheering on Abby at her dance recitals. His assistant had seamlessly adapted to coordinating around 4 school calendars with impressive skill. The Sarah Porter Foundation kicked off with a gala fundraiser aimed at supporting pediatric cancer research and providing assistance programs for families of patients. All 4 Miller sisters were present, adorned in shades of blue, Sarah's preferred hue. "You've transformed," James noted, observing Matthew assist Abby with her shoes prior to the event. "For the better, I trust," Matthew responded. Without a doubt, Emma, now 13, had embraced photography as a means to document their changing family narrative through the camera Matthew had gifted her. Her images, adorning the walls of the penthouse, narrated their experiences. Lily at her piano recital, Sophie triumphing in the science competition, Abby's toothless grin, and Matthew, appearing somehow younger, his features softened by happiness. On a Tuesday morning, the adoption papers were finalized. The girls decided to embrace the name Miller Porters, a tribute to both their history and what lies ahead. The judge remarked on the union of 2 families into one as he signed the final documents. As Matthew stepped out of the courthouse, he sensed Sarah's presence more vividly than he had in years. It was no longer a painful absence. Instead, it felt like a guiding light that had brought him to these 4 extraordinary girls who had somehow become his daughters. "Hold still." Emma chuckled, fiddling with her camera while Abby squirmed with impatience. The family gathered by the graves of Sarah and Jessica, now united by a garden of daisies that the girls had lovingly planted between them. The spring sunshine bathed the polished stones, illuminating the fresh flowers meticulously arranged by small, careful hands. 6 months post-adoption, their Sunday ritual now embraced this visit, shifting from somber to peaceful, and even joyful at times. The cemetery had evolved from a site of sorrow to one of connection. "Perfect," Emma exclaimed, seizing the moment with the camera Matthew had gifted her for Christmas. This photograph would find its place among countless others in the leather-bound album they were crafting together. The album, a brainchild of Emma's, served as a visual narrative of their unexpected family. The initial part featured vintage photographs, showcasing Sarah in her childhood, Jessica with her daughters, and Matthew during more joyful times. The central portion detailed their shared experiences, including hospital visits, first days of school, and holiday festivities. The concluding pages were blank, poised for the memories yet to come. Later that evening, Matthew observed the girls as they organized the new photographs from the day. "Do you think they'd be friends?" Sophie inquired unexpectedly. "Sarah and Mom, if they were both here." "I think they already were," Matthew replied, revealing Jessica's final letter to her. "In some inexplicable way, they united us." Lily's finger glided over Sarah's smile captured in a faded photograph. "They remain woven into the fabric of our family." "Always," Matthew agreed, observing these 4 extraordinary children who had transformed his understanding of family. It wasn't merely about those linked by blood or birth, but by love and the unseen ties of destiny that had united them. Emma shut the album, but not before inscribing a caption beneath today's cemetery picture: two families becoming one. Exactly 1 year had gone by since that pivotal day in the cemetery, when 4 little girls with wildflowers altered Matthew Porter's life in ways he could never have imagined. Today, the Porter Miller family convened in the penthouse living room for a unique ceremony of their own creation. The space had undergone a remarkable transformation. No longer just a pristine exhibition of a lone billionaire's wealth, it had undeniably transformed into a true home. Family photographs adorned the walls, and a piano now took the place of modernist sculptures in the corner. Colorful throw pillows and handmade Afghans softened sleek furniture, while children's artwork was framed with the same care once reserved for expensive paintings. "Is everyone ready?" Matthew asked, glancing at his daughters gathered in a semicircle. Emma, now 14 and maturing into a thoughtful young woman, adjusted her camera on its tripod. Lily sat at the piano, her fingers poised and ready to create music. Sophie held a journal filled with her meticulous handwriting, while Abby, nearly 7, bounced with barely contained excitement. "Today we celebrate Family Day," Matthew began, his voice steady and calm. His heart brimmed with emotion. It had been a year since their paths intertwined. On the coffee table between them rested 2 framed photographs, one of Sarah at 16, beaming despite her struggles, and another of Jessica Miller surrounded by her 4 daughters, captured during brighter days. Beside them stood a third frame, currently empty. "In this family," Matthew continued, "we honor those we've lost by living fully in their memory." Lily began playing softly, a piece she had composed herself, hauntingly beautiful. Sophie flipped open her journal, her eyes scanning a poem that spoke of stars leading wanderers back to their roots. Abby carefully arranged delicate paper flowers in front of the photographs, each one a labor of love. Emma, the ever-watchful guardian and now the keeper of their family's stories, took a step forward, bringing up the rear. From a folder, she pulled out a digitally crafted portrait, a project she had labored over in secrecy for weeks. It depicted all 6 of them together: Matthew, Emma, Lily, Sophie, Abby, Sarah, and Jessica, as if they had always been a single family. As Emma placed the portrait in the empty frame, she said, "Because they're still with us, and always will be." Matthew felt tears welling in his eyes as he gazed at the impossible family portrait. The past and present intertwined, creating a stunning unity. The Sarah and Jessica Foundation has now provided assistance to 20 families impacted by childhood cancer, he shared. "Today, I have also completed the educational trust for each of you." While the practical details hold significance, they are secondary to the profound meaning of this occasion. Each girl took turns speaking, sharing memories from the past year and hopes for the future. "I used to think family was just who you're born to," Emma said, her voice strong despite the emotion behind it. "But now I know it's who stays beside you, who fights for you, who chooses you every day." Matthew observed his eldest daughter with a heart full of pride. The once fearful girl who had navigated her siblings through daunting challenges had transformed into a young woman radiating wisdom and compassion. "I have something for each of you," he announced once they had completed their task. He presented each girl with a small box. Within were matching gold lockets, each holding 2 tiny photographs, Sarah on one side, Jessica on the other. "To remind us that love is everlasting," he elaborated. "It evolves and persists in fresh forms." As Matthew assisted Abby in fastening her necklace, she gazed up at him with those pure eyes that had once inquired if he was Sarah's daddy in a graveyard. "You know what, Dad?" she said with contemplation. "Sarah is no longer just your angel. She is now a part of all of us. The same goes for Mom." Matthew drew his daughters near, these 4 extraordinary girls who had shattered the barriers of his sorrow and shown him how to embrace life once more. Outside, the spring sun poured its golden rays over the city. Within the walls of their home, a family forged not by blood but by a deeper connection rejoiced in their remarkable transformation from strangers to cherished companions. Years ago, beside a hospital bed, Sarah and Jessica made a promise: one would watch over a grieving father, while the other would care for 4 vulnerable girls. They could never have foreseen how that promise would blossom through loss and love, pain and healing. As Emma's camera timer ticked down and they struck a pose for their family day portrait, Matthew Porter, who had once been defined solely by wealth and achievement, came to understand that he had received the greatest gift of all, not just a second chance at fatherhood, but a first chance at true happiness. The camera clicked, freezing the Porter-Miller family's beaming expressions, a snapshot of pure happiness saved for the unfolding narrative of their lives together.